Pests beware, your fields have heroes. The Pests and Predators podcast is brought to you by Field Heroes and is powered by the Western Grains Research Foundation. Learn how beneficial insects fight pests and protect your crops. Visit fieldheroes.ca today.
Shaun Haney here with RealAgriculture.com, and I'm joined right now by the new Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food for Canada, named in the Carney cabinet from this week. It is Minister Heath MacDonald. Minister MacDonald, it is great to have you on the show.
Great to be here, Shaun.
Okay, so I guess starting off, is this a role within cabinet that you aspired for?
No. But you know what, Shaun, my background, where I come from, obviously, it's a farming community. We're in rural Canada. Well, you could consider Prince Edward Island as rural, whole rural.
Yeah.
So I've always, my mom's family actually were all farmers. From pork to beef to potatoes, some grain crops. So I'm very familiar with it, but you know what? There's lots going on in the world today that I'm not familiar with, and I'm here to learn each and every day.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about PEI, but it seems to have a bit of a place as for this role as Minister of Agriculture. Of course, one of your predecessors, Lawrence MacAulay, who didn't run, was twice the Minister of Agriculture. So obviously the island is very familiar with the industry for sure. I guess from a priority standpoint, and I know we're a couple days into this. So, but what are some of your top priorities, ambitions for yourself as Ag Minister, and how do you plan to make an impact here in the early days in this role?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's reaching out to my counterparts across the country and understanding the regionality and the differences that we have to pay attention to. Making agriculture and agri-food a priority at the cabinet table. Ensuring that, because let's face it, farmers' success is my success. And that's not lost on me. Ministers will come and go. Farmers are here to stay. They're providing food to millions of Canadians and millions of people around the world. So we need to recognize the importance of processing and produce and farming in general to ensure that all my counterparts around the cabinet table understand the contribution that farmers make to not only, feeding a country and countries, but the economic value. And I think sometimes that gets lost in the conversation. We get pinpointed sometimes on issues from province to province or regionalities, but the economic value to every province and the farming communities is second to none. And it's not lost on me. It's number one in my province. And so I need to press continuously to the value of farming across the country.
And one of the challenges, I think, in trying to probably communicate the industry's concerns to your fellow members in cabinet and the Prime Minister is the diversity of the industry. If you're the Minister of Transport, you got a couple railways and a few airlines, and their concerns are pretty, in parallel to each other. In agriculture, you talk to a dairy farmer in Abbotsford versus a lentil and grain farmer in Saskatchewan versus what's happening with potatoes in PEI. There's a lot of differences there.
It is, and I think that's what you need to represent. And I think the regionality and the differences of issues, they change from province to province. And I've heard that clearly even in the briefings that I've had to date and the consultations with ministers across the country. I mean, everybody has their issues. Some of them are same, but farmers are farmers are farmers. We need to make sure that they're prosperous. We need to make sure that the government's doing everything it can to enhance their progress. And look, when farmers do well, most economics in every province do well. If farmers don't do well, then they're not going to. So if there's ministers sitting around that table, and I joke you not, that don't understand farming, they will by the time I'm done talking to them, because it will affect them one way or another. So we need to ensure that we are doing everything we can to educate everyone. And I'll be honest, sometimes in media you get wrapped up in issues from province to province to province. But at the end of the day, a farmer on PEI and a farmer in Alberta are the same. Only scale is the difference. And we need to ensure that we are consistent in what we do. The issues may be a little different, but certainly at the end of the day, they're doing the same job.
A question around internal workings of the department. What changes do you foresee for the AFC budget in light of some of the Liberal platform to focus on spending efficiency and your own personal role in terms of dealing with government efficiency? What changes can we expect?
Well, my background came from finance minister in Prince Edward Island, Shaun. So, I respectfully, I get it. We need to be fiscally responsible because that's good for everybody. It doesn't matter what industry or sector you're in. But removing regulation burden, sometimes that doesn't cost anything. Ensuring that, if we're out here talking about new markets and ensuring that we're consistent with other countries on our regulation and policy is paramount to be successful. If we're not, for example, if it's taking us 2 years to approve something that's already being used in the EU, that's been approved for a number of years, then we need to change and we need to adapt. And if we don't, we're putting our farmers, our Canadian farmers, at a disadvantage. So these are some of the things that I want to pursue very quickly. And I think, Shaun, to be quite honest, I think the time is right for a reset. Governments need to change at all levels, not just federal, but provincial, municipal. I think we need to adapt. We're not living in the same world we were 5 years ago. So we need to adapt or we're going to be on the losing side of some of this stuff, and we need to move quickly.
The Prime Minister has talked about national unity. Of course, he kind of went with the slogan during the campaign of elbows up. Domestically, there is some fragmentation. The Canadian Shield in the Rocky Mountains can be not only a physical barrier, but a bit of a mental barrier too in bringing people together. So from an agricultural standpoint, how do you plan to do that?
Well, I think it's boots on the ground. I think you need to get to the farms. You need to sit and talk with the farmers, develop some relationships. And look, I'll be quite honest with you. With even the prairie provinces, talking to those ministers, look, their elbows are up. I'm telling you, I was really impressed with the conversations I had with them. Yes, there's issues without a doubt, but you know what? If, like I said to you before, if they're successful, we're successful. And so we need to listen to them. We need to provide the resources and to move forward. But I can tell you there's a lot of unity out there right now, and it's no different among farmers.
When you talk to some of those ministers of agriculture across the provinces, has there been any discussion with those provincial ministers on some of the agri-stability changes that were announced before the election? And what are some of the next steps on that file?
Well, I think, you know what, I'm knee deep in this stuff right now, and I'm learning as I go on some of these issues. But yeah, there was discussions. Look, there was a broad range of discussions, Shaun, on many topics, believe me. But I think I have to listen to industry and parlay that information back to the officials here in Ottawa. And that's exactly what I'm doing. But still, I've got lots to learn, without a doubt, and I'll learn each and every day. But back to boots on the ground, I think that's the most important thing, is to develop those relationships and get to those farms across the country as soon as possible.
Well, maybe I'll see you at the Calgary Stampede.
Hey, all right, sounds good.
at that big reception. So, from a trade perspective, one of the criticisms that stakeholders in the industry have had is that there wasn't enough focus on developing markets and trade access during the Trudeau government. What are your thoughts there to increase exports of agricultural products?
Well, we don't have a choice. We had one of the largest bilateral agreements with the U.S. in trade. So, and we know how fragile and fluid that is. Yeah. So I think right now, any government that doesn't act on that is going to be a weak government. And I'm not going to sit part of a weak government. So we need to move as quickly as possible. Trade is certainly something that we need to do, diversification, and to do more domestically at home. And whether that's building out our processing, that's important as well. So we just need to move quickly, and we need everybody on the same page.
Yeah. When do you intend to reach out to USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins?
She's already reached out, actually, and nice. So I hope to have a visit with her in the near future. I've been to Washington now 3 times in the last few months on trade issues, prior to getting this post, of course. But so I think that's extremely important as well. I mean, look, this face to face, I I think, is building that relationship and understanding one another's needs, even through all the political tentacles of politics. I think it's important to have that relationship going forward.
Is there plans to have a G7 agriculture ministers meeting?
That's more than I can tell you, Shaun. You're the first one to ask me that, but it's an interesting question.
Okay. What about the China tariffs? China has put tariffs on aquaculture products, Canadian pork, Canadian canola oil, and meal. Obviously, this is in response to those EV tariffs. What's your message to the Prime Minister and your members of Cabinet on that issue?
Well, anything to do with the tariffs is very fluid from either of those countries, the U.S. or China, and I think we have to pay attention to what's happening. I've had great discussions already with the Canola Council of Canada, I think it is. Get that right.
Yep.
We had a good discussion yesterday with them on that, so I'm trying to get up to speed as fast as possible. Next week, I'll be meeting with the ambassador to China, Canadian ambassador to China. We have a meeting set up, so it's kind of a next step for me to ensure that what I'm doing. We talked yesterday to a consultant that's actually in China right now, trying to get up to speed. So, talking and doing everything I can to educate myself on the situation, and talking to farmers as well. So it's ongoing. It's a fluid situation. How we deal with it's my job is to keep it on the front of the table and ensure that we continue to talk about it at Cabinet and with the Prime Minister. And I don't think that's going to be a problem because he's very rehearsed in it and he understands the importance of it.
This discussion that we're having, I know we're almost up against a hard stop here, so I'll finish up. I just want to learn a little bit more about Minister Heath MacDonald himself. What do farmers and ranchers across the country and some more American audience here on Sirius XM who's going to be very interested in Canada's new ag minister? What do they need to know about you? What's your superpower? What's that thing about you that you think that people are gonna really appreciate in this role from your perspective?
That's a tough question, Shaun, but you know what? Look, I'm determined. I'm determined to make a difference. I'll do everything I can at this level to do that. I don't I don't take no lightly, and my will is to find a way, and let's find a way, and to make farming as good as it can be, especially in these difficult times. But what you see is what you get. I'm not going to change. I'm going to be a dog with a bone, and we'll see where it takes me.
Great stuff. We've been talking to the new Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food for Canada. It is Mr. Heath MacDonald. Minister MacDonald, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Shaun.